I think I was getting myself used to the fact that we live and we die, and that's the life cycle. That's how it happens. That's what goes down. And so there was no intention there of writing poems or whatever having to do with science. I just got back into the science. I found the passion and juice again for why I love science so much. And then, after all that research and after all that saturation in the brain, the natural thing that started to happen was start to write poems that infused a lot of science into them. I got a grant or a sponsorship from the Native Arts and Culture Foundation to create a full-length performance that is a creation story from the Big Bang till now. And what I want to do for you guys is a segment of it. I've only performed this once in public as a whole, and I want to do it for you guys just because this is the full cycle. From the title of this lecture is From Science to Poetry and Back Again. Where do we come from? No one knows. We do know a lot about everything, though. So many different crossroads, but the paths look the same. Like it could have gone different, but it went this way. Like a hopscotch game of infinite time. Every time we move forward, there could have been 9 parallel dimensions, but it's all in the past. What came when life first appeared on this planet? It depends who you ask. Because if you ask an evolutionary biologist, she'll tell you that Mother Earth sang during her labor. And when she was ready to push, the moon pulled with one last tug on her womb. And as the embryonic waters rushed forth, they contained a single cell, like a single thump, floating over the bass drum rumblings of the night. It was a bacteria, a slime, nourishing and nursing the nutrients of her fluids, an infinitesimal infant, unconscious of its existence, persistent in its will to survive. And as night turned into day and day turned into night, it grew too big for its limits. And with a quick twitch, it split into 2, giving birth to an identical twin. And they thrive and reproduce to produce more children. And they thrive and reproduce exponentially. Like a cascade of ripples scattered throughout the sea over a billion days and nights, they thrive and reproduce until an entire tapestry was woven. Generations of descendants dispersed through her waters, and over time, after endless days and nights, after trillions of beats had come and gone, had echoed into the darkness, one of the single-cell notes made a mistake when it replicated. Gave birth to a strange sound with mutated genes, different from anything that had ever been heard before. It was an archaea, a cell at a different frequency, able to survive the harshest of environments, and it thrived and reproduced. And they thrived and reproduced, then they spread, and scattering in, on, and around Mother Earth, they thrived and reproduced, while the bass beat continued near her womb. And we stay that way for millions of years. Trillions upon trillions of beats come and gone, so one day, one of our single-cell notes made another mistake. Gave birth to another mutation that was profoundly different. A bacteria that came out photosynthetic, able to catch the sun's rays for sustenance, and played at the surface of the water each day. Became independent and went off the grid, held the blueprint for chlorophyll. Like a mistake played beautiful, it was like jazz. And it thrived and reproduced, and they thrived and reproduced. Fill the world with oxygen, they thrived and reproduced. Scattered through Mother Earth's oceans, they thrived and reproduced, alongside bacteria and archaea. stay that way for over 1 billion years, echoing into the cosmos, shaping the atmosphere, laying the foundation for our future. And then something really, really interesting happened. And we're not quite sure how, but we have our hypotheses. Somehow, some way, in archaea ate a bacteria without actually eating it. And this bacteria lived inside, and together they thrived symbiotic. Like how lovers come together to make each other better, entwine each other's essence through the night. It seems in archaea ended up with a bacteria in its guts. But they became one entity, exchanging genes. Thus, a new form of life plucked itself into existence. And this new cell was organized with a nucleus for its DNA, which meant that we now had a dedicated space for our genes, our own little laboratory for genetic transfer and mutation, which is a fancy way of saying that this whole entire thing was about to get insane. The first thing we did was to become multifaceted, arranging ourselves into multicellular life forms, multiple cells that acted as one, like how many brush strokes combine colors and textures to create a singular masterpiece. Like how billions of tiny water droplets combine to make one cumulus cloud, and some of us stayed that way. Evolved into the mold and fungi we see today, and others of us went symbiotic with the photosynthetic bacteria. Evolved to the seaweed, plants, and trees that allow us to breathe, but the rest of us, we broke off from the chain, went a new direction with our multicellular lineage, mutated into simple animals who gained the power of digestion, who could eat the energy of other living organisms to thrive and reproduce, and some of us stayed that way. Evolved into the coral polyps, worms, and starfish we see today, and others of us grew exoskeletons for structure and protection. Evolved into the crustaceans and insects with mind-blowing diversity, but the rest of us, we broke off from the chain, went a new direction with our animal lineage, mutated spines in our insides, and developed into creatures who could swim long distances or change directions. We had to take greater control over our own lives, learned to swim against the current when we needed to, grew brains and eyes, learned how to hunt and avoid being hunted, and some of us stayed that way. Evolved into the fish, sharks, and rays we see today, but the rest of us, we broke off from the chain, went a new direction with our vertebrate lineage, mutated lungs and limbs into our DNA so we could take our first gasps of air, explore land for part of our lives, took our first steps toward a new frontier, and some of us stayed that way. Evolved into the frogs, toads, and salamanders we see today, but the rest of us, we broke off from the chain, went a new direction from our amphibious lineage, mutated the ability to lay our eggs on land, so we could be born and raised on the Aina, so we could be safe from predators in the sea, and some of us stayed that way. Evolved into the reptiles who, man, you should have seen them. They used to run this land, mutated to epic proportions and became the dinosaurs, and some of them mutated even more, grew wings and feathers and mastered flight, took the evolution to new heights, and they ruled this land for over 100 million years. Kings and queens from the mountains to the valleys, from the jungles to the plains. But then the world changed. And because of a massive asteroid or comet that smothered the sky after impact, shooting its dust into the atmosphere like slow motion confetti, rocking the sun and ushering in a lingering winter, most of the dinosaurs died out. But the ones who could fly remained, and they evolved into the birds, direct descendants with royal dino blood, so when they fly overhead, it is their way of reminding us that they once owned the land below them too. But the rest of us, we broke off from the chain before the dinosaurs came. Mutated the ability to regulate our temperatures. Then mutated to hold our eggs inside our wombs from inception to birth. Nursed our infants with milk. Developed bonds between mother and child, and some of us stayed that way. Evolved into the wolves, primates, and horses who roam under the trees, and some of us even went back into the oceans. Evolved into the seals, whales, and dolphins that roam the sea, but the rest of us, we broke off from the chain, went a new direction with our mammalian lineage, mutated, the ability to move upright, mastered carrying and running, became hunters and gatherers, crafted tools to realize our ambitions, grew bigger and better brains. We started to shape our environment. And some of us stayed that way, evolved into the Neanderthals and Denisovans who thrived in the regions, but the rest of us, we broke off from the chain, went a new direction with our human lineage, mutated into a species with the capacity for high intelligence. We harnessed the power of fire, grew bigger and more complex tools, and whether it was our ability to adapt to our changing environment or just sheer luck, we are the only ones of our humankind to have survived the passing of time. So far. And here we are, Homo sapiens. Billions of years descended from our bacteria-like ancestors, but this path wasn't easy or straightforward. We estimate that for every species of animal that exists today, there are about 1,000 species that didn't make it. 1,000 mutations that came and went, and through billions of years of trial and error, through natural selection and catastrophe, whether we were stronger or smarter, more prolific or more resistant, or just plain luckier, here we are, the thrivers and the survivors. So tonight, I want you to think about your life. I want you to think about what you stand for and realize that all the suffering you've ever experienced means nothing in the long term. For every year you live, the universe will be around for trillions. And for every friend you've made, there are billions yet to be born that you will never meet. In the grand scheme of things, we are nobody. And yet at the same time, we are everything. We are X and Y chromosomes. We are G, C, A, and T genomes. We are complex carbohydrates, simple proteins, soft tissue, hardwired neurons. We are strong bonds linked in nervous systems. And while this Earth's surface is covered with 65% salt water, we are walking bags made of 65% salt water, merely mimicking the environment that we evolved from. And when we are done, this flesh we call our own returns home to the sea where we dissipate, evaporate into water vapor, and these bones will be broken down by the roots of the tallest trees, while this Earth, hurling through space, will freeze and boil as it has for eons as it orbits the sun, which in 5 billion years will transform into a red giant and scorch all life as we know it. Its last blast before it fizzles into a whimper, remembered by nobody. Or maybe charted by aliens as they peer through telescopes, logging our sun as a piece of data that came and went, and these aliens, whoever they may or may not be, I want them to think about their lives. I want you to think about your life as you study me through your primitive telescopes, and I want everybody, the aliens, you and me, to realize that even when our hearts break, or when work gets rough, or when rent's due, when someone somewhere says something stupid about you, even in the face of homicide, genocide, and suicide, in the face of racism, sexism, classism, and insert a really bad word here, ism. No matter how hard life may get for you or for other people, zoom out. Zoom out and realize that all the evil in this world is transient. Heck, all the good in this world is transient. You, me, all of us are transient. You will not be doing the grand scheme of things, which makes all your suffering trivial, which makes your ecstasy the only thing worth remembering as part of the universe expressing itself in one giant orgasm known as the Big Bang. We are its aftermath sigh, its alibi for not having a reason. You are the universe learning about itself. You are the universe asking itself why it's here. You will soon be the universe not learning or asking anything. You are everything and nothing at the same time, and no matter how hard it is to admit, no matter how afraid we get, and no matter how much we want to deny the truth, well, the truth is we're going to die. You're going to die, I'm going to die, you're going to die. Sorry about that. You should eat more vegetables. Isn't going to change. It's not going to change anything. We're still going to die. All of us. But the truth is hard to swallow. And so we do everything we can to avoid the big picture, because the big picture is paralyzing. So we focus our eyes on the day-to-day dramas of our lives. But not today. Today, I want you to think about your life right here. Not here, the Black Box Theater in Edmonds Community College, but here, this world, planet Earth, here, this galaxy, this universe. We are not cavemen anymore. There are no saber-toothed tigers lurking in the shadows, yet most of us cling to our fears like the animals we evolved from. What are we so afraid of? We've been etching the same patterns in the same predictable places for years. Why do we live the way that they tell us to? And who the heck are they anyway? It's about time we start doing what's in our hearts, because that's all we really got. I want you to think about all the things you wish you could do, and tonight I want you to do one of them, and tomorrow another. Our lives are temporary art pieces. We are works in progress, so I say paint your ass off. Use fluorescent yellows and reds, the places where there aren't any color. Dance for the moment, scoop your life out of soil, and make the universe smile. Be the expressive process that is humanity. Today, I want you to think about your life, and tomorrow, I want you to live it.
That's it.
Yay.